Aloha, everybody, and welcome. Good to see you all. I'm Natalie. This is Life After a Cult. This is a channel where we expose cult nonsense, okay? We laugh at the absurdities. And we hopefully unbrainwash ourselves in the process. Grab your coffee and grab your emotional support animal because we're going to talk culty today. And this is a wild recap. Relatable Reese is taking accountability, shedding that cult mindset, and realizing sometimes we're the problem. Then we've got Scientology's latest PR stunt. We have a doomsday cult with cats. I just could not help myself. We have to talk about this a little bit. William Gude, Scientology Audit Streets LA, being chased through the streets again. I cannot get enough of it. And Xenu TV shares how Dr. Drew spilled the tea on Scientology's smear tactics. I love the videos that he's putting up. So let's get into all this. Today's question of the day, if you didn't see it in the chat, this is a hard one. Maybe it's not hard. What's the hardest boundary you've had to set, and how did it change your life? If you're on the replay, I want to hear from you. Please jump into the comments and share that as well. I feel like there's so much that we can learn from each other. Hey, Aaron over at Growing Up in Scientology. Oh, thank you, Mama Opal, for the reminder. Today is our members only live stream at 4:30 Central. We're doing it at 4:30 Central, and we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into a couple things that I've been processing myself, having to do with understanding when people get outraged on your behalf, but you're not outraged. Honestly, I have turned the members only live streams into my own therapy group. And all of you here on the channel in the chat, I like to refer to as my emotional bubble wrap in many ways. So hope you can join us there. Now, let's see. What are we jumping into first here? Let's just get this cat cult out of the way here, because I talked about this a little bit last week, but there's more to it. And I guess I want to share this and kind of know, like, is anybody else curious about this? Are we going to look further into this? I mean, cats hate cults. Cats hate cults is here. So I think it's a good time. So let's look at this clip here. This is a little short from Check the Rhymes TV, and let's talk about it.
What can audiences expect from the remainder of the season of The Curious Case of?
And then the final episode in The Curious Case of, which will air on Monday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central, on Investigation Discovery, is a 2-hour show, not an hour. And it's about Cheryl Ruthven. We call it the cat cult, Doomsday Cat Cult. This is a self-proclaimed preacher who has quite a following of people. They're now in the Tennessee, Kentucky area.
See, when I heard about this before, I didn't know that it was all over the place. I thought this was like a one state thing. It's not. It's not.
But they started in the Pacific Northwest. And she believes that cats are the vessel, basically, to the afterlife. And she tells her followers they have to basically adopt all these cats, bring in all these homeless cats from the shelters and take care of the cats. And if you have to make a decision between feeding your child or your cat, the cat comes first, basically.
That's where I feel like a lot of people would bail out at that time. So that there's even a following for this has me very curious.
Wow.
So it's that story, which is not a widely told story.
So what can...
Very interesting. I will link that down below so you can go to the full video. But I was seeing that and I'm like, now I share with you guys, I am allergic to cats. So I didn't really grow up with cats. I am allergic to most animals, unfortunately, even those hyperallergenic dogs. Just have not been able to find a common ground there, even taking allergy medicine. So it's a hot mess for me. But yeah, I definitely could not join that cult, just like Mama Opal. Sorry, but Natalie and I are not able to join that cult because of allergies. Yeah, exactly. And it's not too foreign. If you look back in history, didn't the Egyptians kind of have a bit of a cats are the key, into the afterlife? And of course, it's taken it too far because it is a cult. But I find it interesting. Tell me your thoughts about it. I actually want to go watch this show that they're referencing. Venus Blue, the cat cult woman, is so bizarre. Okay, so you do know something about this. How are you not? Because who would put... Well, let me put it this way. I do not see a scenario where I'm feeding any animal over my children. That's the part where it's like, okay, now you're getting culty here. And yeah, Feral Cheryl, you're right. Egyptians worshipped Bastet. What's Bastet, Cheryl? Tell us there in the chat. Venus Blue, yeah, Egypt was into Bastet. What is that? I don't know what that is. But do tell while you're throwing that in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye out for that. And we'll get on to our next story, which, we've been watching for months now, protests going on in Denmark. Denmark tried to get a restraining order against protesters there. And I think it's very interesting, very, very interesting that Scientology is putting out now some press releases about this event they had that was going on in Denmark and how people are so curious about Scientology there. They're just, coming in. But real quick, okay, so thanks, Nancy. Bastet was an ancient Egyptian goddess who was originally depicted as a lioness, but later became associated with cats. She was a goddess of protection, fertility, and childbirth. Well, I get that, but then that's a goddess, not a cat. But that makes sense. That makes sense. So it wasn't about the cats. It was more about maybe what that represented, but she was an Egyptian goddess. Very interesting. I don't hate it. I love a good, I don't know. I feel like, we all get into our goddess years. My hairstylist, who's a little bit older than me, refers to what I'm in and entering in, of course, menopause is your goddess years. And I love that. I'm now calling it that. I am in my goddess years. I am in my goddess season. Right before this started, I had the worst hot flash. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be totally sweating. Just all in the face. But I'm going to go with it's my goddess years. M71, dogs have masters, cats have servants. That kind of makes sense. I've never really understood the cat energy. Like my son has a cat, he and his fiance, and I just go, I don't understand it. But it does make sense. Definitely, I guess the same way people prefer dogs. Some people prefer cat people, dog people, and then there's snake people. Definitely not me. So let's talk about Denmark here. Let's talk about it. Let's look at this here. Gird your loins. This is a Scientology press release. This was in a record number of curious visitors to Church of Scientology in Denmark. Let's see. And here's a picture here, right? There are a bunch of people in there if this photo is real. Here's what was happening. They had a culture night. So on culture night, visitors came in to visit the information center, talk to members, get a tour, take a stress test, or just walk around and look around. Now, I don't doubt that people are curious about Scientology. I mean, it's what brings people to my channel a lot of the time is a curiosity about this cult. I think Scientology is putting a twist on this, or they're just blinded because they've got the cult blinders on and are like, oh, they're coming in because they're genuinely curious. I don't know. Call me crazy. Maybe I'm biased. I don't see that happening. You guys tell me. Do you think people are showing up to Denmark at this org for this because they're genuinely curious about Scientology, or is it a morbid curiosity? So they have this culture night. When asked directly, they said they had chosen to come in simply because they were curious to find out what goes on in a church of Scientology. And judging by the responses to a survey, God, Scientology loves their surveys. Can we talk about that for a second? My former Scientologist, I'm sure you're with me on this. Survey. We always had to fill out these surveys. It was all about surveys. And I feel like they never really used the information from the surveys if they didn't like it. Because sometimes I think people were like, what would be great as a Scientology member? Because they would ask questions like, what would get you to move up the bridge to total freedom even faster? Lowering the prices. You cannot tell me that wasn't an answer. Lower the prices. Why is Scientology so expensive? You barely got any members, and now let's make it unobtainable for most. That's something that just never added up to me. But we know why they don't lower the prices, because they're a cult that's making money, and that is pretty much what the focus is on. So they're saying one visitor said, "Thank you for opening the doors. It was really exciting to be shown around and talk to someone who has been there for more than 25 years. Her friend added, "I was very pleasantly surprised by how professional, well organized, and beautiful it all is. We're super happy that we chose to go in. It's been a completely new and positive surprise." So in Denmark, they celebrated their 60th anniversary since Scientology opened their org there. Let's see. I guess this current location, they've been there since maybe 2017. So goes on to, with some Scientology propaganda. Here's the thing. So they have an information center. It's open from 9 to 10, right? Something that thousands of passerbyers have taken advantage of. And the church has had over 6,500 people visit who have participated in free pre-booked 2-hour lectures with tours. I don't know, 6,500, that sounds like we have millions of Scientologists. So I think I'm going to share this down below after this. I do believe that this is Scientology's way of trying to pay no attention to the people exposing Scientology in Denmark that we tried to get a restraining order on and failed. But instead, hey, we've had 6,500 people come through. I don't think so. Why is nobody seen coming and going when people are there, right? I'm not buying it. It sounds exactly like a Scientology propaganda press release, but I'm here for it. We're here to read it. Exactly. Power lies to paralyze. Those stats are pure kitty litter. Well said. Awesome clap back. I'm so thankful for the chat because they really make the show here. I love your little quips. Queen of Karma says, like how the MLMs are claiming their companies are growing, but the stats don't add up. Exactly. People can say anything they want. You can put whatever you want in a press release and get it out. Bad Thayton says, I did a survey and my cats and dogs all agreed. Scientology is a cult. I feel like that would be a very, very popular opinion. All right, now we're going to look at this video, this clip from Scientology Streets LA. Just when I think I see everything of this video of Joey Rocket chasing him, and I know I've shared a couple of clips of earlier parts of this, but I can't get enough. I don't know what it is. I think in large part, it's Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Gude. His laugh is so infectious. And the way he laughs in this, I think that's what it is that has me so drawn to it and that I find so funny. And the irony of Joey Rocket, who is trying to get this elderly restraining order against William Gude. And now Joey Rocket is literally chasing him down the street. But William's response, I cannot get enough of. So we're going to watch this. He just put this clip up of it.
Oh my God!
I'm walking my dog.
Look at him! Oh my God!
I'm walking.
Look at Joey!
My dog. It's a fuck.
Look at him! Look at him!
It's a fuck.
Look at him! I'm getting a restraining order.
The laugh, the laughter. I can't hear this and not smile and laugh.
He's assaulting me! He's assaulting me!
No, wait.
Look at Joey!
Are you
Joey
afraid?
Rocket Eckers!
Are you afraid?
I got to put up some signs all throughout Hollywood.
Are you afraid of me?
I am very afraid I'm going to get a restraining order.
Oh, you're coming.
Well, I got to get a restraining order. How is it going to feel? Great. I'm getting a restraining order. Shannon, you should let him in.
Look how beautiful that sunset is in LA.
I'm getting a restraining order against this guy. Stop following me. Stop following me, Joey. Stop following me. Stop following me. No, you need to pay your bills. Pay your bills, Joey.
I haven't got it.
Well, you know what? You're going to have to go get a job. It's time to get a job.
I'm retired.
You must. Your son reached out to me. He said he will not.
Outside my
You're
house.
stalking me right now. Oh, my God.
I agree, Jacob. That poor dog being dragged around there. Yeah, Marcy, exactly. Funny how he can jump and run, that Joey. Yet when he was going after Streets in court, it was a whole nother sliding down the walls, collapsing, needing a cane. It was so extra. I heard, doesn't he have some kind of background in acting? Maybe that's why. But it's like now here you are out there literally straight chasing him down the street. But William Goode's sense of humor about it is everything. It's so funny. Sharona said he's trying to bait William into something so he doesn't have to pay that money. But Joey doesn't owe it to Streets. He owes it to the lawyer. Yeah, I agree. He's definitely trying something. I don't know what he thinks. Bad Thayton says, what grown man in his later years goes by Joey and has a mohawk? Well, I don't follow him for that. I've actually seen this. I've actually seen it quite a bit. My time in when I did live in LA and Hollywood, it's funny. I recall that thinking, wow, I think it's so interesting that people of all ages, some of them were sporting the mohawk. Now it was back in the day too, because when I was there, it was the late 80s, early 90s. So I think there was more of that going on. Gaslit says William is everything. Talk about controlling his reactive mind. Yeah, Scientology should take a page from this, honestly. Paralyzed to Paralyzed says Joey Rocket is an animation storyboard artist. He did the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty. Oh, very cool. Sandy McKenna says, I wish I could move like Joey. He's a gazelle. He floats. No kidding. I'd like have muscle spasms. I mean, I'm working on it. I'm going to get more movement. I've decided to turn my grocery store into a gym because it's near my house. Doesn't cost anything. I'm going to walk around and have like, gallons of milk. I'm just going to carry them through the store. Maybe water because I don't want the milk to go bad. Okay, now let's take a look at something. Y'all know many people in Scientology, we come from a multi-generational family. For me, my family was 3 generations deep into Scientology. Now 4 if you count Grandpa Dad, but I don't like to count that. I start with my mom. But if you count Grandpa Dad, it's 4. He really was the first one in. And y'all know that story. My mom was married to my stepdad, then married his dad, Grandpa Dad, the whole thing. So for those of you that do follow and play the drinking game, which is hard to do in the morning, but you can take a swig of your coffee or whatever it is, every time Grandpa Dad is mentioned. So I was not surprised to see this clip of an older Scientologist, obviously from the East Coast, putting demands on her offspring to provide 4th generation Scientologists. I got to say, I wasn't surprised to see it. Let's take a look, you guys. Look at this clip and let's talk about this.
My grandbabies are going to be 4th generation Scientologists, whether you like it or not. Those big thetans and those tiny little bodies. Hey, welcome to Earth. I'm your grandma. These are your parents. This is my son. And I'd like to say, this is my daughter-in-law, a very dedicated Scientologist. Am I going to be able to say that, son? She doesn't know who L. Ron Hubbard is. Then you don't know who she is. You're better than that. You need to find a girl that's clear. If she's not clear, she's clearly not for you. And she better know this book, Child Dianetics, by heart. She's got to be going up the bridge. Donating to the IAS. What's her IAS membership? I think we should probably sec check her a little bit, just to be sure. Maybe go through her PC files a little bit.
Sec check her and go through her PC files.
And she better not have been to public school. Not like that last girl you brought home. Her father was a psychiatrist. Are you crazy? The entire weight of the entire civilization for the whole world, for all eternity, for every planet in the entire galaxy, for the next trillions of years, quadrillions of years, all mean you need to get busy on the 2D.
If you are not following or subscribed to Liz Gale, I'm going to link it down below. The mods are sharing the link. You got to. It's so funny. Great gig in the sky. Can we talk over a cup of coffee? I can't even do it. Of course, we've got our own Sandy McKenna, who really has that East Coast accent, and I absolutely love it. Look for her at the Friday protest in Clearwater. She was there last Friday. I can't wait. That group is growing. More people are showing up, and it seems like a lot of fun. And SBTV, Liz needs a one-woman show. I agree. Professor Furberger, go Liz. That's right, Marcy. I laughed so hard, and I watched it multiple times, and I still could not stop laughing. Does it matter to you? Not to me. OMG. Yes. Mock, I agree. Liz needs a stand-up tour. Stasia says, absolutely love this. She's so entertaining. Farrell Cheryl says, get busy on the 2D is so romantic. I think what makes this so funny is, well, multiple things, but this could be real. This could be real. This is how many, not all, many Scientologists do think, especially in these multi-generational families, which Liz Gale knows. She's a third generation now former Scientologist. So she knows, which is why I think it's so great that she did this. Valerie says, I didn't recognize Liz at first. She's really good. I think that what makes it so great. Hunter Bay. Oh my gosh, didn't even realize it was Gail. Yep. Nope, that's Liz Gale. Sharona says, this is fantastic. On a side note, Liz needs to play Cyndi Lauper in a movie. Oh my gosh, yes. Tony Hoban watched it 3 times. Me too, at least that. Does it matter to you? Not to me, says, get it. I was laughing so hard. The people next to me and in the vehicle were staring at me because they could hear me. Yeah, Bad Thayton. I thought about that too. The accent reminds me of Coffee Talk on SNL in the 90s. Completely did. It was so good. Oh, she made my day. Okay, now we need to go over. Oh, and SPTV fan says Cheryl and Liz together. Oh, Lordy, good times. Yes, please take my money. What do we need to do to make that happen? Oh my gosh. That was so great. All right, we're going to go over to L. Ron Hubbard's life exhibition where Dan Walks LA was the other day, and he saw something very curious, and I think it's important that the Office of Special Affairs is aware. So, David Miscavige, wake up your people. Oh, look at them. I like it when they hold hands. It is Thursday. Yes, it is Thursday. I'm always like, what day is it? Okay, so Thursday in Scientology is one of the busiest days. It's when staff members of the Office of Special Affairs, and others scramble to get their statistics up. But it is not just any Thursday before 2, people. It's Thursday before 2 leading up to L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, which this year, does it fall on a Thursday? Falls on a Thursday. Next Thursday is L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. So that is where their year ends. So they are down to the week before the end of the birthday game for the year. So they're like doing crazy, what's called stat pushing, where you do unusual solutions to get your numbers up. That's what's happening all over in Scientology. So Dan Walks LA, he's over out. What's he doing? He's walking LA, and he goes by L. Ron Hubbard's life exhibition. And Office of Special Affairs, you need to be aware of something happening. But first, you need to be aware that Be Merry for Life is a member of Life After a Cult. Thank you so much. Memberships are a wonderful way to just add a little bit of added support for the channel, make it possible for me to do what I do. Ooh, I just lost another light. There's a link down below if you are interested. There's different membership levels. We do weekly membership live streams, members only live streams. So please do check that out, and I appreciate it. Okay, back to Dan Walks LA. So he's walking LA. He heads down to the life exhibition, and there is a huge Outpoint Office of Special Affairs. Are you aware of this? Somebody needs, there needs to be a knowledge report at a minimum, a things that shouldn't be report. I don't know who let this happen. It has to be corrected. But that this is happening at the shrine of L. Ron Hubbard is just kind of beyond me. Let's take a look at what Dan Walks LA saw. Wow. Bless him. There's that screenshot if you want. Oh, the water feature's off. Wow. Back there on L. Ron Hubbard Shrine, there's supposed to be the cascading water feature. What is happening? Oh. It's never off. The water feature is off. I thought it looked a little still. Wow. Did they not pay the water bill? Is there any water in the building? What is happening? That is a shrine to L. Ron Hubbard. Exactly, Mock. Flunk. Office of Special Affairs. What happened? What happened to the water? What happened at the shrine of L. Ron Hubbard? Aloha. To Michelle Ball for becoming a member of Life After a Cult. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you're here. Coco's mom. Aloha. For that super chat. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just glad her abuser was not in her home at the time the message came out. Oh, or you're talking about the Reese situation. We are going to get to that. People may be sending condolences instead of hate, in my opinion. Got it. Thanks for sharing that, Coco's mom. And we are going to talk about that in just a little bit. So hold tight, hold that thought. All right. So anyways, I don't know what's happening over at the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition. I just know something's going on. Something's going on, and Dan Walks LA is out there to show us. Angela, Bobangela says, no one is there. What a shock. That's the other thing. It's like, where's even the receptionist? Where are the people? What happened to that, church and the steeple, and you open it and you see the people? Ain't got none of that in Scientology. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. Are we surprised? I don't think we're surprised. But nobody is there. E.S. Gotcher says, that feature probably uses a recirculating pump, so same water over and over. The water being shut off wouldn't affect it. Yeah, no, I didn't think it. Yeah, it usually does recycle water because nobody wants to be wasting water like that. I just more meant it as a joke that their water got shut off. But it is weird. Like, did someone not turn it on? Whose job was it to flip the switch and make sure that it's going? I don't know. I'm just saying, it just really looks like someone might have been sent to the rehabilitation project force or put onto manual labor or is locked up in a room. Joe, the guy in charge of making sure the water's flowing at the L. Ron Hubbard Shrine. It didn't happen. So I don't know. I do not know. Let's take a look now at some footage that Xenu TV. If you're not subscribed already to Xenu TV, that is Mark Bunker. I highly recommend. This is a highly recommend. Mark Bunker continues to take footage from, oh my gosh, the last couple of decades. He's turning it into 4K. He's putting it back out. He's sharing it. And it is valuable. It gives us great insight into what's been done and talked about in the past in terms of Scientology, what happened with the protests. We've seen multiple times Scientologists bull baiting in person. These days, Office of Special Affairs, not that I want you going out there bull baiting people protesting Scientology, but you do it online now behind a little keyboard, trying to do your thing. And I'm just curious, do you prefer that? Or would you rather get back out on those streets, get out on the mean streets, L. Ron Hubbard way, and give those protesters a piece of your mind like y'all did back in the day? And when did that stop? Let's see. When did that stop? Oh, that's right. With the internet, with cameras and phone, with anybody having the ability to take a video or, God forbid, live stream. I mean, that came later. Now they're like, no, we're not about that life. But Mark Bunker shared an interview. Y'all know Dr. Drew. I don't even know if he's still on the air, but he was way back in the day in Los Angeles, where Mark Bunker, Tory Magoo 44, and another guy went on to talk about Scientology and do some exposing. And I've got a clip from some stuff that Tory Magoo 44 said. Listen to this and let's discuss.
Have had bad things, and if he would just expose those to you, then he'd be welcomed into the fray or something. Or
for sure.
Oh, interesting.
But it's like there is that thing that Mark mentioned: always attack, never defend. So you'll always find Scientologists are out attacking wherever they are, and that's because of that policy.
Are you under any kind of scrutiny from them now that you've left?
Oh, hell yeah. They've written thousands and thousands of pages of lies on me on the internet and followed me and my friends, and they're a very weird mafia-like organization, as one of the judges called them. They're not a church.
But wouldn't it be more, well, we can talk about that in a second, but wouldn't it be more in their interest just to kind of let you be?
Yes. I left. When I left, I had called this lady who was helping me, Stacy Brooks, and I said, I'm not going to speak out. I'm not going to do videos. I'm not going to picket, right?
Yeah.
But then they canceled my van. The vice president was at LAX following me around. They chased me across the country. They had 25 people.
Have had bad things, and if he would just.
They did. They literally chased her across the country. And this is very common. Even your girl here. When I left Scientology, I was just going to leave. Office of Special Affairs, I need you to really focus. Wake up. right? Drink a little bit more coffee. You should balance that with water, by the way. I did notice in the Sea organization back in my day, gather around for back in my day. Back in my day, when I was in the Sea Org, we didn't drink enough water. Now, it was back in the day, we didn't all have those big water bottles, those Stanleys and all that to carry around. But the amount of coffee, which is dehydrating, and I love coffee, I'm drinking it now. I'm just saying, do some self-care, drink more water, drink more water. Okay, so when I decided, my family and I, 3 generations of my family woke up and went, oh crap, we are in a cult. We need to leave. How do we leave? How do I leave with multiple members of my family, right? We were just going to leave. We were going to walk away. I had no intention of speaking out. That is the truth. But y'all wouldn't leave well enough alone. You wouldn't leave my family alone. You tried to take my daughter from me. That's when we went public. Yeah. Scientology completely creates their own enemies. Many people, when leaving Scientology, they're devastated. A group that they gave all their money, their time, their effort, sometimes even their kids to wake up to the fact that it's a human trafficking cult, just that it's even a cult, is difficult. Not everybody wants to run around and tell the world that, and nor do they have to. My plan, our intention was just to kind of go on and heal, but Scientology can't leave well enough alone. And here I am now here on YouTube talking about it. But this is classic. We see this over and over again. And I'm glad that they had that conversation back then. That's right, Tony Hoban. They create their own enemies. It's so true. It's just, it would be so easy. Why can't you just let people join and let people leave? But they can't. They have to discredit every person who leaves, because waking up to the fact that you're in a cult is actually contagious. If you hear too much from other people about what's really going on in Scientology, you start, going, well, wait a minute. No, first the blinders come in. That's not true. No, I can't look at that. Then you go, wait a minute. I respect that person. And that's why they came hard at me and my family, because we were 3 generations deep. My mom ran the Operating Thetan Committee, which is basically PTA for Scientology in the Twin Cities. We're all very involved. She was auditing on one of their highest levels. So us leaving was a huge problem. Could have left quietly. So Office of Special Affairs, I don't know how many times you got to hear this story. This interview was years ago, and it happens over and over and over and over again. If you would just let people leave and not put out all this expose and do all this stuff about them to try and discredit them, you're really discrediting yourself. How is it every single person who leaves and speaks out about Scientology is bad, is wrong, is a criminal? Every single one. If you ask Scientology, because that's what they say. Angela, a person might not realize they're in a cult until they leave and find out that the cult won't leave them alone. Exactly. Because that's part of it. What happens if you try to leave? Sandra D. Thank you for being a member for 11 months. Hey, you guys. Thank you so much for popping in. All right, now, there is this story. You guys, there is stuff going on in Mexico that we need to talk about. We need to talk about Mexico. Yeah, Juanita, exactly. At the same time, I guess that it is the tactic all cults do that try to discredit whomever is against them. Yeah, just leave, walk away, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, even when you split up, you're getting a divorce, walk away, be done. Be friends, don't be friends, whatever. But the Scientology is like, they take the whole stage 5 clinger thing next level. It's like they hold on to your leg while you're trying to leave. And if you don't give into it, now you're the a-hole. And then the campaign of hate starts, and God forbid you talk about it publicly. They really don't like that. Linda Lou, they just woke up Tiger Mom Natalie. You want my child? Not today or ever. Yeah. And it took a while for me to wake up to that. That wasn't the first time they tried to take my child. That's all part of my story. Leaving Scientology, it's similar in ways to getting out of an abusive relationship. Sometimes there's a back and forth. You go back. And so many people did that with Scientology, especially Sea Org members. And I don't fault anybody for that. It's part of the process. You have to come to it. You have to come to it on your own terms. It has to be for you. It has to be your decision. And when it fully is that, I think then it sticks and people are able to walk away. And today, with what we're creating here on YouTube and even this community here on my channel, you guys are creating such a warm and welcoming space for people who've left high control groups to come, to have fun, to talk about it if they choose, to learn from each other and be able to move on from it. And that's always been my goal on getting here on YouTube, is to shed light on the abuses of Scientology and other high control groups, but also do it in a way where we can have some fun doing it. Because for me to do something long term, it has to be fun. No more boring. I spent 35 years in Scientology. I don't need to do that anymore whatsoever. It needs to be fun now. That's kind of where I'm at on it. And I'm glad that you guys are all here for it, because I think making it fun is the only way to continue to be able to talk about it. Because a lot of time it's very ick. It's so ick. It's just the worst. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me get the phone, y'all. We got a hotline call. Life After a Cult. This is Natalie. How can I help you? Okay, yeah. I mean, it's really more about cults, but if you have a relationship question, I guess that's fine. How can I help? Okay. So your husband decided it was best for you to live in a secret compound while he lives how far away? Hours away. Well, that's certainly a choice. What else has he decided for you? Oh, he decided you don't need a phone until last week. Wow, that's a long time to not have a phone. Well, congrats. Your first smartphone. Wow, well, this is a good thing because this could be helpful for you. You missed the entire internet. I mean, 2 decades? Yeah. Well, I mean, mainly the entire internet kind of becoming a flaming garbage heap at times, but there's still a lot of good things. You miss memes. Well, you'll find out. Yeah, as you learn how to use your phone. Oh, you're only allowed to use it for a few minutes a day. Well, I'm glad you got out to call me. Oh, he also decided you don't need television or the news. Okay, that is very suspicious. That's a red flag. Oh, yeah, no, you're about 3 decisions away from starring in an Unsolved Mysteries episode. No, this is for real. And he decided you don't need to meet new people because you have enough friends. All right, well, how many friends do you actually have? 1. A cat named Xenu. Well, that's interesting. Okay, but let me get this straight. You were living your life, minding your own business, and then one day guards came up and just took you to this compound. That's highly sus. You need to get out of there. I don't care that he told you, that it's what's best for you. I think this is what's best for him. I mean, to be honest, that's not romantic. That's a kidnapping with some extra steps thrown in. Yeah. Well, what do you do there? You take care of a house? Okay, like a caretaker? All right. The man who lives there has been away? How long? Since 1986? But you're taking care of his house. All right. That's suspicious. Are you sure this isn't a Scooby-Doo episode and you're about to find out you've been dusting furniture for a ghost? No? Wait, what? You're in charge of an underground vault. This is sounding familiar. What's in the vault? Titanium etched scripture in climate-controlled chambers. Okay, girl, I don't want to alarm you, but I think you might be in charge of an actual doomsday bunker. Have you read what's inside? No, because he decided you don't need to. Well, I mean, for a man you haven't seen in almost 20 years, he sounds like he has a lot of control over you. Now, look, I feel this deep in my soul. You deserve better than this. Let me guess. He also decided you don't need to know where he lives. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah. He says he'll see you when it's time. And when was the last time? Almost 2 decades ago. Girl, this man has been missing from your life longer than like my left socks that go missing. That's a long time. No, it's not because a spiritual connection is stronger than a physical presence. No, that's not real at all. Is spiritual connection paying your therapy bills? You can't get therapy. Okay, what's the name of the man who owns the house that you're watching? L. Ron Hubbard. Okay. And your husband's name? I feel like I can guess at this point. David. David Miska. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought so. Shelly. Shelly girl, listen to me. I need you to drop whatever titanium tablet you're holding and run. What do you mean you can't leave? Because he decided you don't need to? Okay, you have been gaslit harder than a Victorian street lamp, okay? Have you heard of Google? No, that's going to help you. Yeah. Well, no, I know it's a lot. Okay, well, yeah, go take a walk, stare at a tree. As long as you have your phone, start Googling things. Google Scientology. Okay, you promise you'll call back? Pinky swear? Okay, good, because I have a lot more questions. All right. Yep. Nope. Well, you know what? I always say, do your best to have a cult-free day and you call back. Okay. I think we may have just solved a missing persons case. That's right, Shelly, we found you. Call Leah. Underground vaults, watching a house. This sounded so familiar. You know, there's 4 of those locations. Sandy McKenna, press 1 if you've been love bombed. Press 2 if you're still deprogramming. Press 3 if you just realized it was all nonsense. I may need to add that to a recording because these calls really interrupt my vibe. But you know what? We're here for it. We're here to help people figure out, are you in a cult? Could you be in a cult? What is happening? Okay, back to Mexico. We got to talk about Mexico. We're going to look at this quick. This is from the Underground Bunker. I keep forgetting I want Underground Bunker music. I don't have any. All I have is, let's go to the bunker. Boom, we are in the bunker. And apparently so is Shelly Miscavige, or at least taking care of a bunker. So this is from the Underground Bunker. Tony Ortega is doing a bit of a deep dive here into some shenanigans happening in Mexico. This is a publication. This is a very large publisher with these magazines in Mexico. I'm going to give you the cliff notes here. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to link it down below so you can read it. The owners, the people doing this magazine are donating huge amounts of money to Scientology, and there they are. So what's happening? What's happening here? Imagine if the publishers of Time magazine had showed up at a Scientology blowout to pick up a trophy for donations. You get some sense of how this looks. This is very interesting. So he's identified some of these people. There's more to come that he's going to be covering about it. I mean, they showed up at like the patrons ball at the International Association of Scientologists gala there to get this. So this is very sus. I'm like, okay, obviously somebody here has got to be a Scientologist is what I think about it. But I'm going to link it down below so you guys can check it out. It's something that I think we need to be aware of because what is happening in Mexico? Well, in Mexico City, there's an ideal organization. And I think the article said they're opening another one, or that there were 2 and they're opening a 3rd. This is unheard of in a city like that. And there's talks of opening an advanced organization, which means they can deliver the Xenu levels. I'm like, I don't know. I think we need to keep an eye on that. So I'm going to link it down below so you can stay up to date on what's happening in Mexico, because it does seem, you know, Scientology, they're not getting away with as many shenanigans here in the United States. So of course they're going to try to go to other countries that might not fully be hip to Scientology being a cult. And this is where I think it's really valuable to have some other channels that can talk about this who speak Spanish. Same thing goes with people live streaming or protesting Scientology. I do know coming up on YouTube, they're working with, and I forget when it's going to be released, but where you can watch a YouTube video in another language. Like we don't even have to go and create that content. That YouTube is using AI so that you can listen to it in another language. And I think that'll be super, super helpful. Mock, yes, I can think of more fun things to do in Mexico. I don't doubt that at all. I am with you on that for sure. Going and visiting Scientology, not so much. But I do see them trying to take advantage of vulnerable people or maybe people who want to come to the US, even from other countries. And then you get all trapped up in Scientology, which is a cult. So I think we need to keep an eye on that. All right, now let's get into talking about some Relatable Reese. Relatable Reese dropped a video yesterday. We've been talking about this week. It has been a great jumping point for some deeper conversations around these topics. Magnus, aloha. Thanks for being a member for 2 months. Look at the thumbs up button. Thank you. Touch the look at the like button. Thank you. Touch the like button. Thank you. Little Scientology joke there, because Scientology has their members in there. Some of their auditing, walk around looking at walls and touching things. First, you got to look at it. Then you got to walk over to it. Then you got to touch it for hours. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. All right, now let's talk about this. So I've got some thoughts. I want to share some clips with you. If you've been following this, last night in the video, she talked about, and first, let me preface this. I know we all have feelings one way or the other. You are free to express your feelings, but I just ask that you do it in a respectful way without name calling. You can have a disagreement, but still not communicate it in a way that's hateful. On either side of that coin, that's all. But let's talk about it. I think this is a great conversation to have. So let's see. Let's start with a couple of my thoughts on this. So in her video last night, she openly acknowledged past mistakes, including how she treated friends, moderators, and even other creators. She said she wanted to take responsibility for her behavior rather than just shifting the blame, which I think is a great first step. She also emphasized that self-awareness is key, which it is. She can't change the past, but she can change her actions moving forward. And actions are everything. That is my opinion. She apologized and was trying to own these mistakes. So she publicly apologized to several people, including former friends and moderators, for how she treated them. She accepted that what she did was wrong. It's a starting point. And as she said in her video, there'll be some where that's not good enough. And that's fine, because this is how I look at it, is this is a process. Everything, this isn't law and order. Everything's not wrapped up in one. I don't even know how long Law and Order is. I haven't watched it in years. 1 hour. It's not just wrapped up in an hour with a beginning and a middle and an end, and all wrapped up with a bow, and we've come to a conclusion and it's all figured out. This is not that. This is in real time. We're watching somebody continue to heal from Scientology and shed some cult mentality. And I find that fascinating. And that she's doing it in real time. I don't know that I could have gone on YouTube and done a channel right after I left Scientology. I did participate in some articles exposing Scientology, but that's very different than getting online and talking about my personal life and all of those things. That takes a lot. My takeaway last night, so she talks about ending this toxic relationship and realizing how much that negativity had seeped into her life. She feels lighter now that she's moved away from that toxicity, and she doesn't want to keep showing up that way. And she admits that she herself was doing it. She can see how it affected her mindset and her behavior and made her more defensive and aggressive towards other people, which is also a very Scientology way of handling things, because in Scientology, it's right, never defend, always attack. I look at this and I see an opportunity to help us understand, myself included, this influence of Scientology on behavior, and when someone leaves and they're going through this process, what that can look like. It's different for everybody. It's not that it's going to be the same for every former Scientologist. But she did admit that her past as a Scientologist shaped how she treated people, especially friendships. And I get that, because in Scientology, there aren't any real friendships. You can't really trust each other because of the snitch culture. And you are indoctrinated to believe that you really don't need that. That, if somebody gets out of line or they're speaking badly about Scientology or you attack them. You don't try to have a conversation to sort it out and find out, hey, what's going on? you mentioned you were upset about something I said. Let's help me understand. Let's talk about it. That's not part of, now that might be individual Scientologists who maybe joined as an adult might have that within them to know that's the right thing to do. But for many raised in Scientology, it's just not that way. And I think we're seeing Reese learn this in real time. In Scientology, relationships are transactional. And I think she realized she brought that mindset into her post-cult life. And I think she's starting to understand that friendships should be valued for what they are and not for what they can provide. Because remember, everything in Scientology was transactional. Relationships, friendships, all of it transactional with Scientology. It's not a something for nothing or doing something just because it is the right thing to do. The other thing that came up last night is she decided to stop having her son, Huxley, her son on those streams, which I think is a great idea. I don't fault anybody for sharing. My grandson comes on sometimes, but I'm not necessarily talking about his private life as much as a 7-year-old can have a private life. But you know what I'm saying? I'm not getting into like his parents' business and talking about that. But this is also a learned behavior to have boundaries, to have those healthy boundaries. And that's part of what inspired this, like the question of the day today about boundaries that we've established. And, what did you learn from that? What changes did that make in your life? Because I think that is a key piece of this puzzle, is recognizing that boundaries are good. There are healthy boundaries, and it's okay to have different boundaries with different people. Even though he enjoys being on camera, she does recognize it's part of her job to protect his privacy, or she realizes that now. And I think that's a great decision moving forward. And I thought that was fantastic. The other key part from watching her video, my takeaway, is she talked about letting go of the hate cycle. It becomes a cycle. She says she's no longer going to speak badly about people who criticize her, because it can become a cycle, right? You say something, that person says something, and then you just, volley back and forth. And where does it stop if there's not an actual conversation or an intention to heal or try to right a wrong? You're just taking hits back and forward. And that conflict, though it might make for good views on YouTube, we see that play out over and over. And YouTube themselves say, hey, if you can make it dramatic and intriguing, you get more views on YouTube. It's part of how everything works. And then it creates this algorithm where YouTube will show you more of that because they're like, oh, you're obviously into that. And I think she understands that conflict on YouTube is inevitable, but she's saying she's not going to feed it anymore. Hate will always exist. In fact, this clip here I'm going to show, she talks about the yin and the yang of it. Nancy, I'm sorry, I did not see. I was looking in a different spot. Appreciate how you explain everything, Natalie. That's Coco's mom. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So stay with me here on this, okay? Let's look at this clip here, and then we'll continue talking about this.
There is a yin and a yang, and it's always going to exist. This is how I'm going to look at this from now on. I have to have people who don't like me. It's their content, and I respect that. I talked to somebody today that you would never, ever, ever expect me to talk to. Okay. I had a long conversation with this person. It was a very respectful conversation. Nevertheless, I did say, this person said, you don't have to trust me. I said, I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody, but I especially don't trust you. However, we were able to have a mutual, respectful conversation. I'm aware that I have many, many enemies at this point. Okay. And in light of what just happened, this situation that just happened,
I think too, even acknowledging that and recognizing that there is this yin and yang as a content creator, because think about this. This is not even unique necessarily to someone who's left Scientology. It's kind of the topic and things that we're talking about. But this happens with people who've never been in a cult as well. You can get into this cycle, this vicious cycle of back and forth on the hate train. And I can see, based on what she said, that she's starting to see that many people genuinely did try to help her, but that she didn't appreciate it at the time. She admits that she mistreated people because she didn't understand how to be a friend. And that is real. I've seen that very much in Scientology. There, especially people raised in Scientology, the values are different. You are indoctrinated not to value friendships and relationships and individuals. You are indoctrinated to value the group. You value Scientology. You value supporting Scientology. Bad thing. Thank you so much for that super sticker. Aloha is a test of the Comic Relief Network. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. I love that. Thank you so much for that. I can see too, right? If you didn't value those things before, you would show up differently. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we all show up in life and we focus on the things that we value. And even though sometimes we think, well, I value peace, I'll use myself as an example. I value peace. I value enjoying myself, doing my own thing. I value that more than I do trying to show that I'm right. I value that more than I value defending myself. I'm a content creator on the internet. People are going to say things and have opinions. That is part of putting yourself out there. Now, not only am I way further away from Scientology, I've been out for 15 years. I've worked in the media on and off for years. I had a radio show. I've done a different podcast. I've done segments on local television and whatnot. So I've had more exposure when it comes to putting myself out there and having people have opinions about me that I might not agree with, or taking something I said, not how it was intended, but through the eyes of, we all see things through our own lens. So I've had more experience with that. And I think that experience has showed me that I really need to be solid on what I actually value. And if I value peace and having joy in my life, I have to not put so much attention or time or energy into trying telling people, no, that person was wrong about me. No, I didn't actually say that. It's impossible. It's impossible. This is the internet. It's like all over the place, right? People will have their opinions, but what I've come to realize through my experience, my own healing, and in learning tools that are not Scientology, that I get what I put my energy into. And where my attention goes is where my energy is going to go. So if I'm only focused on things people say about me that are untrue or I don't like or whatever, I'm going to get more of that. And you'll see, I mean, if you follow me for any length of time, I don't tend to do that. I don't tend to give it that much attention because I'm focused in another direction. I want to put my energy into what I value. Powerless to Paralyzed said, when someone toxic asks me what my sign is, I tell them stop sign. Works every time, boundary maintained. That's a great way of putting that as well. So I can relate to a lot of what she's saying when I look back at Natalie 15 years ago, right? I wasn't exactly the same, but I can relate to it because I know the effects that Scientology has on an individual. And the first step, her even acknowledging that she's mistreated people, that she didn't understand how to be a friend, is a first step. And now she values friendships more than ever, values relationships more than ever. And that opens the door to then showing up differently and trying to be better. But it is not something that happens overnight just by flipping a switch or even realizing that. There's still work to be done. There's still, right? The proof is in the pudding. Let's see how someone shows up with their behavior and what they do. How, let's see. I feel her intention is to move forward with integrity. She made a firm decision to stop engaging in drama and toxicity. That is difficult to do, especially when you first start doing that. But I think that's a good first step. She committed to treating people better, handling criticism, in a better way where it's not taking away from, if she values relationships, if she values what she brings to her audience more, focusing more on that. And I think her stream or video last night was a powerful example of how deeply cult influence can shape a person's behavior. It doesn't justify, it doesn't mean it's okay. I'm just saying I can see how it shaped it because I was there with myself and multiple people in my family and so many other people I know who've left Scientology. Even long after leaving, it can still be shaping how you show up. Everything from how she handled friendships and relationships and conflict, that was still affected by Scientology conditioning. But she's recognizing these patterns and trying to break free from them. This is not an overnight thing. In Scientology, we were indoctrinated to believe that as soon as we realize the source of something, that problem ceases to exist. As soon as you realize the correct why, the reason why something is happening, boom, everything just blows. That's not true. You might feel good in that moment, like, wow, I think this is why. But that is often where the real work starts to happen. Because what happens the next time you're triggered with something? And I want you guys to try to put yourselves to inner shoes, not even as a content creator, but when you've experienced this in life, in your relationships with other people, and when they might have been toxic. There's a Scientology mindset that friendships and relationships are not about emotional connection, but usefulness. That's a Scientology concept and way of operating. If someone can't serve a purpose, they're discarded. We see this with the elderly in Scientology. We see it with not investing time and energy into nurturing children who you would think if they want those people to be part of their future, they would do that. Laura Estrada says, I think my Tony helped you in becoming and learning about friendship and brought your empath self to the forefront. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I did meet him 2 years after I left, and we've had so many conversations about this. And when we look at how these things, what Reese is sharing and how it's affected her, that's how she showed up. She didn't value real friendships, even people who genuinely cared. I don't think she knew what to do with that. And she treated them as if they were disposable. And acknowledging that and recognizing that is a good first step. But the next time you're triggered, that's where the real work starts, in my opinion. Because it can be easy for us to recognize it, especially when you've been indoctrinated to believe, well, I spotted the why, that's no longer a problem. And I'm not saying she's saying that. I think she's recognizing that it's going to take more work to shed that cult way of thinking and then value those relationships. I can just see a lot of these effects. When people questioned her actions, she saw it as an attack, just like Scientology does. And rather than seeing it as constructive criticism, she went on the defense. Again, very much how we were indoctrinated to be and behave. That's not going to change overnight. That takes more self-reflection and really working that muscle, to be honest, of being able to do that. Because I think you guys can relate. If you even take this out of the Scientology world, this is kind of a human issue to a large degree too. And we know that, you know, when we make mistakes in Scientology, there's no apologies. We're punished. You're punished for mistakes. You can't just apologize and move on. You're punished. No matter how small the infraction, you have to make amends. When I was in Scientology and I was auditing on the upper levels, on those upper levels, we had rules around security. And like, if you didn't keep your briefcase locked to yourself as you went back to your room, what ended up happening? You got in trouble. You were punished. You had to make amends over something that really, it's like not that big a deal. Everything has such heavy punishment with it. So that can make it difficult when you've left Scientology to where it's safe to be vulnerable and admit that you don't know the solution, or that you did do something wrong. Scientology has ethics punishment programs, even for their everyday Scientologists who aren't staff members. And it can be manual labor in the Sea Org. It can be rice and beans. You can be deprived of sleep. That doesn't rehabilitate anybody. That just punishes them. That doesn't actually show them something better. It's no different than thinking that you can train an animal just through punishment alone. You don't. You give them treats when they do stuff that's good, right? You give them positive reinforcement, kind of with kids too. And I think she struggled with taking accountability because she was never taught that apologizing is a normal, healthy thing. We weren't. And you've heard me say, like, I don't ever feel like I deserve an apology, but that doesn't mean that other people can't feel that way. For me, I kind of like handle that on my own. Sandy McKenna says an apology can mend a moment, but changed behavior mends a relationship. Exactly. That's kind of the whole thing there. And I think we can look at this too in our own lives. And this is why I think maybe a lot of people who follow along with this as it unfolds do feel triggered themselves, right? I mean, you guys, it stirred up some emotions. Maybe you were mistreated in the past, right? There's so many different things that come up. And if you're interested in, following that content and watching the process, I think it's important to remember too, right? That this is a content creator on the internet. This is not somebody, unless you're friends with her outside of that, but have in your life. And, protect your own mental health as well, because sometimes those topics can be difficult and can be triggering as well. Buckled Up Buttercup says, I don't think I could handle a YouTube channel. I was never in a cult, am old as the hills. Biggest bad habit is ice cream, and I'm sure there would be channels devoted to dumping on me. I'd hope not, but I mean, you're right. You're right. E.S. Gotcher says, we apply weight to our actions and the actions of others as we see it through our own perspective. Perspective is not necessarily reality. That's so true. And it can be different for each person. Oh, yeah. Mama Opal, thank you for the reminder. Members only live stream today at 4:30. Queen of Karma says, that's exactly it. It's always someone hating. No matter what you do, you could save 100 orphans from a fire and someone would be like, well, it wasn't 101. And that is true. There is that too. So where do how do you find that balance as a content creator or someone going through this in real time or even in your own life? I think that's the interesting part of that is how do we work beyond that? And this, again, I don't think it's something that's limited to even to people who are in a cult. Irene says, but does no one feel that's not possible? As example, a human is transactional. We all know that's not the case. Irene, that's not the case. People who weren't indoctrinated with believing that know that's not the case. I think it's also important to remember that when you're watching someone on YouTube, that or even in real life, not even on YouTube, we all see things through our own point of view and from our experiences. And so you might look at someone and go, how could you not even see that? How could you not see? Of course it's that way. It's common sense. Not necessarily. Not for someone who grew up differently. Not for someone who had a different indoctrination. It does not justify the behavior, but it might help you understand why the behavior is that way. And I think that many of the people who support her and try to mirror that empathy and value of friendships is helpful and has been helpful. And that's a beautiful thing is I think we can all learn so much more about each other and about ourselves. And in my mind, like what she's going through and sharing it here on YouTube is a good jumping point for what I think is an even bigger conversation and something that we can talk about. Yep, Irene. Yep, I understand, especially when someone is born into it. Exactly. And Liz S says, it's like, damn if you do, so damned if you don't, in many ways. Irina says, I never give people relationship or friendship advice unless I know them in person. Things can seem really skewed if you just know people online. Very true. We talk about healthy and unhealthy parasocial relationships. It can go both ways. Bo Beats, is it wrong to say I'd like just 1 minute in a locked room with her dad and a wooden spoon? No, it is not. And then throw Dan O'Connor into that mix as well. Sweet Goth says, it took me a long time to know myself and be strong in how I feel and view myself to not let other people's views affect me. Exactly. And I think that's the key too. Similar to how I was telling you, I learned through a lot of tools outside of Scientology that what other people think or feel about me is their business. When you're a content creator on YouTube, it takes on a whole nother level because there's so many places where people can comment or do videos about it. It takes it to a whole different level. The Rusty Glider says, I've come to the conclusion that I was involved with a cult, a different type entirely, at some point. Some point, the people who were hurt also have to look at their own motivations. I had to. And that is a part of the conversation and what needs to, I think, continue. And so we'll see. At the end of the day, I think we're witnessing somebody going through shedding, recognizing that cult mentality and then trying to shed that. So I am fascinated by it. So I'll probably continue to talk about it. I'm glad you guys are here for it. I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much too. I can see your kind comments in there. That's fantastic. Do me a solid, hit that like button, hit that subscribe as well for more content like this. Members, I'll see you today at 4:30. Everyone else, I will see you soon. Thank you for asking the question of the day. I'm going to go back and read those right now. I hope you all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.